Right. So this is week 5. It's been an interesting day for me today. It's been kind of a long one. So I, woke up at 4:30, did my boot camp 5 o'clock, and had to do a bunch of different stuff. But one of those was 100 pull-ups, not in a row, of course. That'd be insane. But I did tear off a huge callus on my hand, like the biggest one. But that was fun. So at least that was like one of the last sets. So I didn't have to do a ton of them with that thing ripped off. But anyway, it's kind of besides the point. And then had my biennial flight review. So every 2 years, I have to do a flight review with an instructor so that they can verify that I'm still safe to fly in the sky there with my plane. So had that today as well. It was a hot day, of course, here in South Texas. But past that, even though there were some issues with some of my avionics that I've been dealing with off and on, for about a month or two. So that was frustrating, but, kept my cool and was able to still perform everything. So that was a challenge, but great fun, and glad I passed. So this week though, last week I had signed the documents to close on the property that I've been working on buying, that I'm going to do a flip on. And there was an issue with the lien, and I'm not going to get into all of that stuff, but the company that had it had since closed, and it had been paid off, but there was no release. Anyway, big bunch of mess, and the title company was not going to issue title with that without having an exception. So we're going to move that to the title company that did some title work before for a loan on that property that will be doing the title policy. So I'm going to have to move that. So that's to say, it's great to have a good title company, a good closer, but then also, people that can help you make sure that you're not, agreeing to close on something that doesn't have completely clear title or has some exceptions that you maybe aren't aware that you're signing off on. And then, what would happen if I did close with those exceptions to those liens not having any proof of being paid off is whenever I go to sell it, those are likely going to come up. So, it's something to be dealt with now so that I'm better able to go to have a smooth closing whenever I go to sell it. So that's all kind of crazy stuff. Now, the other thing was last week I had procrastinated, right, on all those cold calls, the stuff that I was showing you from my KPIs. The KPIs this week, I had one lead from last week. It was a dud. I think that was a one where a guy wanted to move a house off of property, and that's just not something I do or anybody I know does. If you are in the San Antonio, New Braunfels, maybe Austin, you might be willing to come down and do this, but this property is outside of New Braunfels. He wants to move the house. If you are interested in something like that, he said he would sell it super cheap, but you would have to move it and have to have somewhere to move it to. So if you're familiar with 725, it's off of 725. Just get in touch with me, Danny at flippingjunkie.com, and get you some details on that if he hasn't already done something with it. But it's not something I work, so I just passed on it. And the cold calls I started to make. So I did the rest of the driving for dollars stuff. And, I did some cold calls, and I still have to complete those cold calls, but I'm definitely moving towards having somebody do this for me. And I got an email from somebody that listens to the podcast, interested in helping out. So I'll be following up with her and seeing about doing something there. So I'm excited about that because I just find myself not doing that, right? Like I was, this is, and the reason why I want to share this too is because, I remember this is something that a lot of us struggle with, right? We know the things that are going to move the needle, the things that are going to generate the leads and the deals, but we still find ways to do other things during the day and put those off, right? So I know that calling is the thing. I even my mind started saying, well, I'll just mail them like I used to, and that'll be just easier. But I want to get the calling thing, and I want to try it out and see if I can't get some more going that way by setting up those processes and have somebody doing the calling for me. And so I'll do some of those calls today, but I did find it a lot easier to go and work on the Flip Pilot iOS app instead last week. Anytime I sat down to do some cold calls and maybe do one or two, and they're like, yeah, let me go add this functionality to the Flip Pilot iOS app instead. It's a lot more fun. So I did find myself doing that, But anyway, so that's definitely there. It's something to work through and find a way to still get the things that are going to move the needle done by having somebody else that might be interested in doing that part-time or something to do it, or even looking for a VA to do it. It's a lot of investors are doing that. It's definitely an economic option. If you're making calls, obviously you want somebody that's going to be fluent in English and not and be able to build a little bit of rapport, because those initial phone calls, make a difference. And so I'm going to be looking for somebody in the U.S. To do some of those calls for me if possible. And the other thing that I'm going to be doing this week as well is some of the MLS stuff. So looking into some of the ones that I've already been getting into my email and putting those into Flip Pilot, and then following up at regular intervals, like 25 days after the listing, likely where there could be 25 days or 45 days or 60 days likely where there could be a price change coming if nothing's happened with that property, to then submit a lower offer, quite a bit lower than what's listed. Because typically when a listing comes up at a good price, that thing is gone quick. There's so many people looking at those things. But then, looking for the ones that fit my criteria, as far as location, price range, all that kind of stuff. And then following up and putting those offers in before the price changing, be looking to get that going. So anyway, if you're following along, thanks a lot. And if you haven't listened to the podcast in a while, I am still doing interviews. Those are going to be, throughout. I had a couple recently. Paul Lizelle had shared his wholesaling and buying for auction sites across the country and stuff like that. But a lot of real good stuff. And then every Monday at 3:00, Facebook Live. I was late on this one because I was dealing with trying to get the stuff moved to the other title company to get that deal closed. So that took priority over this for me. But usually 3:00 Mondays, Facebook Live on the Flipping Junkie page, and all that kind of good stuff. So thanks a lot. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please do me a big favor, huge, huge favor, and head over to iTunes and give it a good rating and review if you like it, of course. If you don't, just send me an email or something. If you take issue to my swallowing sounds, I've had that come up before. But anyway, the content is there if you like the content. But anyway, thanks a lot for following along. And if you have questions, obviously go to the Flipping Junkie Facebook group, look up Flipping Junkie group on Facebook, and get an invite, just a request to join the group and answer some quick questions, and I'll let you in the group, and then you can ask there. So thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. A real short episode this week, but getting some stuff done, getting the house closed, and making progress on the other house as well. The roof is done, the inside has been demoed, and it's being put back together. So maybe I can get some pictures and stuff to share in the group as well. So everybody, thanks a lot. Take care.